Sing, talk, read, write, play.
Hello, grown-ups. Nancy and Sarah here. You probably know us best as
Miss Sarah
and Miss Nancy. And we are here today because we have been taking some online early literacy courses through this platform called Library Juice Academy.
It is an actual legitimate place.
Even though it has a name like Library Juice Academy.
Yes.
Yes. And anyway, we learned some early literacy tips and tricks that we wish we had known when our kids were small, that we did not know. And it's far too late for our children, but not for yours. So we thought that we would do this little lesson, chat, whatever you want to call it, and pass along some of the tips and tricks we've learned to help promote early literacy that maybe you would enjoy trying with your child at home.
We've been incorporating what we have learned through those classes into our weekly story times, but unfortunately we haven't been able to interact with your children lately. They've just been looking at us through a TV or a computer screen.
And crying when it's Miss Nancy instead of Miss Sarah.
That's not true. That's not true. So we want to share some of our highlights from these classes, and hopefully you'll find something valuable in that you can include in your shared reading experiences with your child. Shared reading is the single most important way to help your child get ready to read. So if you're already reading to your child, you're already doing something right, so give yourselves a pat on the back.
So this is the first of 3 short videos we have planned, and in each video we're going to read 3 different books. One appropriate for babies, one for toddlers, and the third for preschoolers. And we're going to give you the tips and tricks that we have learned as we read the books. You know, things you can try at home. So feel free to grab an adult beverage and lock yourself in the bathroom for uninterrupted viewing pleasure. We did want to emphasize that this is a program for grown-ups. This is not a story time for your children. You do not want to watch this video with your children because when Sarah and I get together, things are not always G-rated.
All right, so we're going to start off with book recommendations for infants. So you'll find a lot of these My First board books, and we typically think of board books for infants and toddlers. And some of the text in the infant and toddler board books might not be appropriate necessarily for infants and toddlers. And I couldn't wrap my head around why are we going to emphasize different words that start with the letters of the alphabet for an infant. Yes, this is a great book for a preschooler or a kindergartner, but this is not necessarily what you would maybe use with an infant. So
it's marketed for infants.
It is marketed, and that is why you will find a lot of these. So just because you find a published book does not necessarily mean it's perfect for early literacy. So this might be a great book with your older child, even if you're in a restaurant waiting, you know, back when you could go to restaurants. But anyway, right. So you could just ask your child, what do you see on this page that is pink? But obviously that's not something that you're going to be doing with infants. So Miss Nancy has the perfect board book for an infant.
All right, so the book that we chose as our example is called What Does Baby See? And there are a few reasons why this is ideal for babies. Well, partly because it says on the back from newborn to 6 months, and I guess we'll go with that. But as you can see, it's a sturdy board book. It has simple images. There is no text. You know, your baby could chew on this or bat at the pages, not cause too much damage. And don't discourage your child. I mean, if they're swallowing the paper, discourage it. But like this is like that foamy stuff in between the cardboard. So allow the baby to chew on the book if they want, because that's how babies explore the world. And the baby batting at the pages could actually be their way of mimicking an adult turning pages, which is actually a great thing for early literacy. So Sarah and I were talking about how when our children were young, many moons ago, how we would have read this book. And I want to give you a general idea of how we might have done that. So we would have read, what does baby see? Pig. Cat. Rabbit.
I think we might have added
the sheep says ba. I might have said the sheep
yes,
says ba.
Yes.
But you get the idea, like total snooze fest, right? So after our literacy classes, we would read it differently. So for example, this is how I might read it now. Oh, I'd still say, what does baby see? But I'd say, oh, look, it's a piggy. A pig says, oink, oink, lives on a farm. And it lives in an enclosure called a sty, though maybe not the word enclosure. That's rather large for a baby. But you know what I'm saying. And pigs like to eat slop. And how many legs do they have? Let's count the legs together. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we could trace the curly tail. We could talk about how the background is red. We might even want to incorporate a song and do This Little Piggy and related to this page. And actually, you had a really good idea for how to read this book.
Yeah, so in Mother Goose on the Loose, we sing the song, I went to visit the farm one day. I saw a pig along the way. What do you think that pig did say? And then mimic the pig sound. And as you go through the book, you can repeat that chorus with all the different animals.
You could also incorporate it into Old MacDonald and just say, Old MacDonald had a farm, and then pig goes oink oink, and then with each of the animals throughout the book. Another thing that we talked about in our early literacy classes is parentese, which is what we used to refer to as baby talk. And it's that kind of high-pitched, really annoying, slow tone that we tend to use with babies. But the crazy thing is, studies have shown that babies actually respond up to about the age of 9 months. They actually respond to that annoying voice better than they would to regular speech. So don't throw away the baby talk. It actually does serve a purpose. Something else I would encourage when reading this is if you have a pet cat at home, or if you have a stuffed rabbit at home, you could talk about, oh, look, it's a cat, just like Gerald. And, and we could talk about the cat, because then you're kind of linking what's in the book to real life, so that, the kids can begin to recognize that what they see in books is actually representative of real life things.
And just like in Mother Goose on the Loose, where we use a visual image to represent something, before we are adding text, they are going to link the visual image as the cat until they can then add C-A-T as the cat. So it is a form of reading visually.
Right. So just basically what we're saying is use these kinds of images as a starting point for a conversation with your baby about the animals in this book.
I have the privilege of talking about our book that we are recommending for toddlers. This title is Hooray for Hat by Brian Wan. And this is a great book to discuss feelings, and children can recognize expressions in characters as well as others. So it's important to start naming those feelings. It will help them communicate their own feelings, and it also helps increase their vocabulary. When Elephant woke up, he was very grumpy. You see the storm cloud over his head. His arms are crossed. Can you make a grumpy face? You can ask your child.
Is that a rhetorical question? Because they can all make
They might already be grumpy. The doorbell rang, and Elephant stomped down the stairs. Go away. I'm grumpy. And this book is great because it has this repeated phrase throughout it. So you can always ask your child to help participate in the story. And when you interact with your child in the story, it makes that experience more valuable to your child. And quite frankly, it makes it more interesting for you as the reader, especially if this is one of those books that you have to read over and over and over again.
Raise your hand if you've actually hidden a book from your child. I have. I really have.
There was a present on the doorstep. Elephant unwrapped the box. Ooh, how do you think he's feeling now? Asking those open-ended questions helps them think about what might be happening next. It was hard to stay grumpy now. Hooray for hat, Elephant cheered. I will show Zebra.
It's quite a hat.
So I pointed out the colorful text. It's important to point at the text sometimes when you're reading. Now, obviously, you don't need to do this constantly, but the colored text here allows you to take a break from it, point it out, and that way your child knows you're reading the text and not just the pictures.
That elephant's arms can't reach that beverage up on the top of the hat.
His trunk needs to reach the beverage. He is an elephant.
Yeah, you got me. Sorry. Answer for everything.
But Zebra did not want to look at any hats. Go away.
I'm grumpy.
Great. You can tell he's feeling kind of grumpy because of that storm cloud over his head. It does look like Pigpen. So Elephant gave Zebra a hat. Zebra smiled, and they both cheered. Hooray for hat! Let's show Turtle. But Turtle would not come out of his shell. Go away.
I'm grumpy.
All right, so how do you think Turtle's feeling?
Like crap.
He's not having a good day. So basically the story continues with all of those friends, and those stories of repetition are great for your kids because it's the beginning of them learning the structure of stories, and then they can mimic reading it. And a lot of these simple stories, they think they're reading on their own just from memorization.
They get super excited.
They do get super excited, and it's all about it. But in the end, not to ruin the story for all of you, they actually make Giraffe feel very happy by sharing the parts of the hat. So you can relate this to a real life experience with your child. So, oh, do you remember when Grandma wasn't feeling so great and you shared your drawing with her? You helped her feel better, just like these friends helped their friend feel better.
Real life.
Yeah, relate everything to their real life. Just makes them own it a little bit more. So that is a great toddler selection. Brian Wan has another title, Hooray for Today. So he's one of my favorites.
I'm going to have to check him out.
There you go.
And so then the third book for our video today that we wanted to discuss is one that's appropriate for preschoolers. And this one I chose is called City Shapes by Diana Murray. And it's illustrated by Brian Collier. And the reason this book is so great is that it's full, well, as the name would indicate, it is chock full of shapes. And what's great about that is one of the first steps to children becoming familiar with and being able to identify letters is being able to identify shapes. And so this book should help with that. City Shapes. A pigeon takes flight through the bright cityscape, exploring the scenery, shape after shape. The city is bursting with shapes of each kind, and if you look closely, who knows what you'll find? A truck rumbling by to deliver the mail, a silvery cart with hot pretzels for sale, and stacks of brown packages hauled up the stairs. Some shapes in the city are on-the-go squares. Because it rhymes, as you go through the book, you could have them predict what the next shape is going to be if they're already somewhat familiar with shapes. A skyscraper covered in shimmering glass, a long metal bench near a green patch of grass, and a table with glittery scarves and gold bangles. Can you think of a shape that might rhyme with bangles and be the same shape as a green patch of grass and a table? Some shapes in the city are dazzling rectangles! Good, you're such a good student. And you could trace the shape to kind of highlight for them the different features of each one. You know, a rectangle has 4 sides, 2 shorter and 2 longer. A great extension activity would be, after reading the book, to have your child write their name if they're able to, or you could write it for them, and then ask them, like, what shapes can you find in the letters in your name? You know, so if they have an O, you could call it a circle or an oval, I guess, if you're being really specific. Sarah discovered her S for Sarah. I called it an oval, and she found 2 circles instead. So
yes, and in an N, there are 2 isosceles triangles, or some lesser shape known people would call it a rectangle. An N would fit into a rectangle.
But Miss Sarah wanted to be a little more precise about it. Anyway, so I just wanted to emphasize this is all about the shapes again. Sarah had a great idea for something else you could do once you talked about the book and all the shapes in it, is to, instead of playing I Spy by color, you could do an I Spy by shape. You know, I spy something that's a rectangle, or I spy something that's a triangle, and you could go around the house and do that. You could do it at the grocery store, the park. I mean, you could do it anywhere, right? And I thought that was a great idea. But yeah, like I said, identifying shapes is the first step towards letter knowledge, being able to identify letters. So that's why City Shapes for preschoolers is a really good choice.
Yeah. I would like to say we added a lot of tips in here, and if you just use one of them, that's awesome. we're giving you a lot of options for what you could choose to maybe highlight. Hooray for Hat had the text, repetitive text, and this one they had some of the text was bolded, so you could point that out to your child.
All those shape names were in
yeah, but
were
you don't
bold.
need to do
All
all
of
of
it.
them. That takes away from the momentum of the story and the enjoyment of the story. But maybe the first time you read it, you just read it straight through. The second time your child asks you to read it, you add a different tip each time.
And something else I forgot to mention about this one that's good too is the vocabulary. You'll notice throughout the book there's a kaleidoscope. If you had a kaleidoscope at home, it would be an awesome conversation starter, but not everybody does. But you could talk about what a kaleidoscope is. I'm sure you could find YouTube images of what inside a kaleidoscope looks like. They use the word skyscraper, bangles, words that we all assume everyone knows what they mean, but they're not words we use every day. So that's another opportunity for opening up a conversation with your child. And that's kind of it for that one.
Great job. So we hope you learned something new and fun today, something that you can incorporate in your reading with your child at
Not
home.
new curse words. Not new curse words. That's
No.
not what we're going for.
But please remember that the Children's Department is not just here for your child. We are here for the parents and caregivers too. So if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to ask us. Or if you have any tips or suggestions of either books you would like to have at the library or even classes. If it's a class that you think that parents would enjoy, we would love those suggestions as well. So you can reach out to both of us. You can reach me through email at runcos@einetwork.net, and you can reach Nancy at
martinn@einetwork.net. And yeah, you're the best source of knowing what it is you want from us. So please let us know what that is.
yeah. And thank you for joining us. We'll see you again in a week or two.
Whenever we do this again. Thanks for watching. Bye.
But I don't know when she's going to start what I should be doing.
You can look at me because I'm going to talk first.
Okay. I don't have to
Should
look
I-
at them?
Can?
Okay.
You can look at them. Now you're freaking me out. Look at them.
I can't do this. I hate this.
That we're encouraging.
I hate conversation.
Let's just have a conversation.
Ugh.
It's just me. You said your words were
know.
go with the flow.
How many cups of coffee have you had
I
today?
did have half before I came, but I threw
Just
the rest of
half?
it down the sink.
So now I'm going to start with my part and look in the middle camera, or who gives a crap. Oh.
We're snorting already. You need to slow the heck down, sister.
For real? Do you think I
No.
talked any slower?
You were
I think she talked faster.
Oh, did I? You were stressing me out a little.
You're stressing me out because everything you're making me redo. I didn't make you redo anything.
I didn't make you redo that first thing at all. That was totally you.
Blur. Blur.
What's the thing with them? No. No, I'm gonna.
No, see, that's wrong. I didn't do any of that to you.
Sorry.
Now I don't know how to start.
I just spat at the camera.